Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL.
When you arrest on the streets and in our jails 50,000 people, 50,000, and you get a couple of complaints, that happens in any type of crime. There is no pattern.
That is Sheriff Joe Arpaio of Maricopa County, America's toughest sheriff, in response to the federal Justice Department saying, hey, if you don't change your ways, we're going to sue you. You have a couple of weeks, January 4th, and if you don't, then we're going to take you to courts. Responding to them saying that he has violated federal civil rights laws and the U.S. Constitution. So he wanted to get a little bit of an insight into this. So we asked our legal expert, Joe DiGenova, to come in on a Friday. Morning, Joe.
Good morning, everybody.
So what do you think of this? Does the Justice Department have a case? Have you looked at their allegations against Sheriff Joe? Do you think they have something there?
Well, it's hard to tell because none of this testimony that this is a report that they filed. This is not a lawsuit. It's not a grand jury report. There's no testimony taken under oath. This is their view of how Arpaio runs his department and his jail. We shall see. If they say they're going to file a lawsuit, they can file a lawsuit. I imagine his defense is going to be that he has run his department and his jail in conformity with the U.S. Constitution, and they're going to fight it out in court. Let's remember, however, that the guy who is doing this is Tom Perez. He's the head of the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice. Perez is a very left-wing, liberal kind of guy, which is what you would expect in an administration like this in the Civil Rights Division.
He's a former Montgomery County councilman, right?
That is correct. They take a very dim view of law enforcement in general. He's not a friend of law enforcement, very anti-police. He has a reputation for that. He's really a traditional left-winger in every sense of the word. In addition, they are working with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Phoenix, and you know who they are? They're the ones that ran Fast and Furious. And these people are criticizing Joe Arpaio. Now, I actually would love to see the lawsuit that comes out of this because I think Arpaio, who is a fighter, will mount an extensive defense, and he's going to argue that he doesn't do racial profiling. He does behavioral profiling, and his officers are trained that way. And by the way, I've worked with Arpaio's office. Victoria and I went out there to do a preliminary criminal investigation of corruption in the county commissioners, and I'll tell you something. His detectives were some of the most professional people we have ever worked with. So this is going to be a fascinating case if it plays out.
Is there a difference between behavioral profiling and criminal profiling?
You mean racial or ethnic profiling?
Well, I'm talking about behavioral. I mean, what does behavioral mean? I mean,
well, it's what the Israelis do when they talk to you before you get on a plane. They look at you. Mm-hmm. They watch the way you walk, the way your eyes move,
right.
So how you're dressed. It has nothing to do with your race or your ethnicity. And I'm sure that that's exactly what his police are trained to do. His sheriff deputies are trained to do out there. In fact, it is a traditional law enforcement technique. It is in the manuals for police to do behavioral profiling.
Well, is he actually under the gun for using some of the programs like Secure Communities that the federal government has enabled?
Yes.
That seems unfair.
What you have here is an approach avoidance conflict by the federal government. Look, they don't like Joe Arpaio because they don't like the flashy way that he talks about illegal immigration and because he's a strong believer in enforcing federal law and Arizona law on illegal immigration. Make it very clear. Elections have consequences. When Barack Obama became president, appointed a guy like Tom Perez, ran the Justice Department the way they run it, this is what you're going to get. There's going to be a war on people like Joe Arpaio. And if they file a lawsuit, the Justice Department, against him, they're going to have to prove it in court. And I'm sure that Arpaio is going to have very fine lawyers and that they're going to fight like the Dickens. And we shall see what happens. I mean, it's the way we function.
Well, take off your legal analyst hat and put on your political analyst hat for a moment. Why are they doing this? What's the political reason behind this?
Oh, my goodness. It's all about the Mexican-American community and a core belief that illegal immigrants have a right to be in the United States. Remember, that is the position of the Democratic Party. The position of the Democratic Party is that all those people that Arpaio is trying to make sure do not take public funds, use the public thoroughfares to commit crimes, et cetera, et cetera. The core belief of the Democratic Party is that illegal immigrants have a right to be here even if they're here illegally. Once you have that as the governing philosophy and theology of your enforcement mechanism, then people like Arpaio are anathema to you, even if they are doing everything legally and the right way. And I think there's just no question. They hate this. They hate Arpaio. They want to destroy him. You know, whether or not he has made mistakes, show me one police department in the country that hasn't made a mistake. Even the vaunted Montgomery County Police Department shoots the wrong person once in a while.
Can I just ask you then? I mean, we've seen two things by Holder lately. This is sort of a attack on Arpaio, and also the speech in Austin the other day where he said we're coming after people who might, have the temerity to say, "Hey, we want you to present a photo ID before you vote."
Right. This is all of a piece. Again, this is
well, it's the Justice Department being used as a political tool, is it?
Well,
not?
I don't think there's any question that the department has become extremely political on issues involving the Latino community, and that they are making it very clear that they're going to use their power against people who do not agree with them on the rights of illegal immigrants in this country.
Now, Newt got pretty strong on federal judges last night during the debate, and there's been some debate after the debate about what he said, that the Congress should be able to subpoena them, and he seemed to have almost sort of a backdoor endorsement of the court packing scheme of FDR, which was setting Twitter ablaze last night. What do you think of his statement?
Well, I think that Newt is doing what he always does. He threw a bomb into a crowded theater on the issue of judges because it's red meat. He knows conservatives don't like activist judges, and he's using his theory that you call judges up before Congress to explain their decisions. That is an idiotic idea. No one is ever going to agree to it, and members of Congress wouldn't do it. Even if the Republicans were in control of both houses of Congress, they would never, ever, ever call judges up to explain their decisions because it would be an abomination. However, the fact is, we have impeached more federal judges in the last 20 years and removed them for office than we did in the first 200 years of our country. So impeachment has become a very common practice. As you know, there was recently a judge impeached and removed for office. We've had it in Nevada. We've had it in Alabama, Mississippi. So what he's doing is he's actually just reciting a nostrum about the fact that he doesn't like overactive judges. His cure, the one cure, which is calling them up to testify, is a non-starter. It's never going to happen, but people love to hear it.
What about the elimination of courts?
The elimination of courts is actually theoretically possible.
Sure.
Congress, remember, all of the inferior federal courts, which is what